Be'ezras Hashem, today's daf, let's make it bigger, is daf Nun Zayin. And we're going to start from approximately 4 lines from
the bottom.
wide lines, a Nun Vavim at base. We're talking about Titus Arasha. And Titus Arasha just now destroyed the Beis HaMikdash and looted all the kalim of the Beis HaMikdash. Now, we discussed how was the Roman emperor incited to destroy the Beis HaMikdash? We know the story of Bar Kamsa. Bar Kamsa was humiliated at a party and thrown out of a party in Israel. So he was so successful in reaching the emperor to incite the Romans to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Fascinating thing, because I don't know how he got to the Roman emperor who lived in Italy and discussed with him that the Jews are rebelling against him. Anyway, this is where we're holding in the sugya. Notal es haparoiches. Titus took the curtains in the Beis HaMikdash that divided the Heichal and the Kodesh Kodashim, v'aso kamin gargusni, and he made it into like a basket. The Hevi kol kalim shebet Migdash, he brought all the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash, v'nichim sham, and placed it in there. V'yishivim besvina, and brought it on a ship, leilech, to go to Italy, in Rome, lishtabeach be'irai, for a parade, to praise himself in his own city, in Rome. As you know, there's the Arch of Titus exists in Rome. I've seen it. Shenama, the pasuk says, v'chein reisi rishoim kevurim uvoy umumkoim kodesh yalechum v'ishtakchu ba'ir asher kein asu. The pasuk describes. So we're going to darshan this pasuk to like hint to what Titus did. Al tikru kevurim ela kevutzim. Don't read the word kevurim. Change it into the word kevutzim. Al tikru v'ishtakchu ela v'ishtabchu. Praising. So the pasuk is saying, I saw Rishoyim who are gathered. They gather for a parade, and they're coming from a holy place from Jerusalem, the temple, and v'ishtabchu be'ir, and they're praising themselves in the city that they destroyed our Beis HaMikdash. Ika the Amri, others say kevurim mamish, that I see Rishoyim who were able to dig up things that were buried. What does that mean? So successful was Titus. Things that were hidden away, that the Jews hid, were somehow revealed to him. And the same thing during World War II, Jews tried to hide valuables, and somehow it was uncovered. Amar Olav Nachsho, as Titus was making his way, maybe during this campaign back to Rome, Amar Olav Nachshel Shavayam Latoivai, a big wave. A tsunami came on the sea, and they wanted to drown him. Omar, so Titus said, Kimduma ani, I imagine, Shelehayim Shel Elu, the God of the Jewish people, Ein Givurase El B'mayim. His power is only with water, because Bo Parai Tiboy B'mayim. Parai came and he drowned the drowned Parai in the sea. Bo Sisera came Tiboy B'mayim. He was drowned in the sea. So God is already trying to drown me in the sea. In Gibahu, if God is so powerful, let God come up to dry land and do a war with me. It's because the power of Titus as a commander was on the land, not in sea. Yatzis Abaskal v'Amruloi. Abaskal came out and said, Russia, Ben Benoishal Esav Russia, son of Russia, and your ancestors of Russia, from Esav of Russia. Bria Kala Yeshli Boilema. I have a light creature in this world. V'Yater Shema. I'd like to touch it. Some touch it as a gnat. I would say it's an amoeba. There are something called a brain-eating amoeba, which if it gets in through your nose, it gets into a person's nose, it starts eating away at his brain. So, hi, Louis. We're just in the bottom of Nunvava Mebeis, about like 10 lines from the bottom. So this amoeba came into Titus's nose, and we'll see what it did. Amai korele bria kala. Why is it called a light creation? The ma'alia isle. Umapkina Leslie, he knows how to take in food, but it doesn't know how to excrete food, which is a unicellular organism, does not have that excretion. Alali Abasha, so Titus went onto dry land. Alali Abasha, he went onto dry land. But I'm sorry, Bo Yatis. So Alali Abasha, Bo Yatis Nichnas B'chaytmei. This amoeba came into his nose, V'nikar b'moicha shevashanim, and started pecking at his brains for 7 years. It was, and I'm sure he suffered that way. Yom Echad, one day, Titus was walking. He was going, passing a blacksmith. Shama kol azafta, and he heard the sound of the banging of the blacksmith. Ishtik, so that his headaches quieted down. Amar iketakanta, I have a remedy. Kol yomi, every day, maisin apacha, they would bring a blacksmith. Umachi kamei, and they would bang in front of him. Lagoy, for a non-Gentile, a Gentile blacksmith, Yovle Arba Zuze, they would pay him for it. The Israel, for a Jew who was a blacksmith and made the noise to calm Titus down, he didn't pay him. He said, "You're lucky that you're able to see your enemy in such pain." This worked for 30 days. Abed Hachi. Since the amoeba or whatever it is that was in his brain got used to the sound, it continued pecking at his brain. So this happened for 10 years. Tanya Amra Pinchas ben Arayva, Pinchas said, "Ani yisi ben Gedali Roimi." I was amongst the Gedolim of Rome. Ukeshames, when he died, Potsu esmoiche, they opened his brain, right? By the way, if you're aware of that, when Himmler died, also his brain, they took his brain and somewhere, it's in a museum somewhere. They opened his brain. Boy kitsipa drar, like a sparrow, mishkel shnei sloim, that was weighing 2 sloim. But masnita tana kagoisel ben shana mishkel shnei litrim. It was like a pigeon, of a year-old pigeon that weighed 2 liters. So this thing grew in his brain. Amar Abaya said, Nakdinan, we have a tradition, Piv shel nechoshis, its mouth was made of copper, Vitziparnov, and its nails, shel barzel, was made of iron. Ki hava komayis, when Titus was dying, the big Russia, Amalei, he said, Liklu lahu gavra, let them burn this person, he meant himself, ulevadri li kutume ayashev yame. So basically, he wanted his body to be burned, cremated, and they should spread his ashes on the 7 seas. They're like, so the God of the Jewish people cannot find him and bring him to justice. Of course, that's what he thought. Onkelos bar Kolonkius, bar achte detitis. And this is in 80 AD, 81 AD. So this Onkelos was a nephew of Titus, and he's a son of his sister, a powerful person. And the Onkelos that wrote the Onkelos in the Chumash, he was getting ready to become a convert. So he brought Titus back with necromancy. Basically, that's through kishuv, through a way of talking to the dead, you're able to bring them back. So he brought Titus back. Maybe it was a dream. And he asked Titus, Man chashabahu alma, who is important in the next world? Amalei, he said, Yisrael, the Jewish people. Should I attach myself to the Jewish people? So Titus answered, the Jewish laws, the Jewish Torah has a lot to it, and you won't be able to keep it. So you won't get olam haba. Zil igru bahu alma v'avaresh. Start provoking them in this world. At least you'll be the head of something in this world. You'll get olam hazeh. Those who oppress the Jewish people will call Yisrael Nasaraish. Whoever decides to oppress the Jewish people takes on a leadership position. Amalei, so Inkelos asked, Dinidahu Gavra B'mai, what is your punishment for all the killing that you did? Amalei, so we go to now Zayin Amar Aleph, B'mai de Pasuk Anavshe, exactly what happened to me at the end of, after I died. I got cremated and they spread my ashes all over the world. So every day my body's put back together and sort of cremated again. They bring back my ashes and they judge me. And they burn me. And they spread me out over the 7 seas. So that was the first person he asked for advice. Onkelos asked for advice. Should he become Jewish? And the advice was not to become Jewish. So he brought back Bilam with necromancy. Amalei man chashabahu alma. He asked Bilam in his dream, who is this? Who is the most important in the next world? Amalei Yisrael. Bilam said the Jewish people. Ma'alad bukebe, should I become Jewish? Amalei loisidru shleimim v'tevasim kol hayamin. Don't befriend the Jewish people all your days. So Bilam, Amalei, so Unkelos asked Bilam, Dinidahu Gavra Bamai, what is your punishment in the next world? Amalei b'shichva zara roisachas, in hot, steaming hot semen. Why steaming? Because Bilam tried to came up with the idea to get the Jewish people to commit adultery. So therefore, his punishment was shichva zara roisachas. So the Gemara continues, Aska benegidel Yeshu anoitri. They brought back Yeshu, Jesus, with he also, Unkelos asked him, he brought him back through necromancy. Again, to ask him, should he become Jewish? Amalei, so he asked Yeshu, Man chashabahu alma, who is chashav in the next world? By the way, this was censored, this Yeshu anoitri. Anyway, we have it here in the Gemara. Who is chashav in this world? Amalei Yisrael, the Jewish people. So Unkelos asked Yeshu, should I become Jewish? Amaleim. So Yeshu said, only seek out the good of the Jewish people, nothing bad. Anybody who starts up with the Jewish people, as if he is playing around with the apple of his eye. Amalei, what is your punishment, Yeshu, Jesus? Amalei, so he said, Betsoya roisachas, with excrement, hot excrement. I'm dumped into hot excrement. To Amamar, kol hamalig adivrei chachamim, whoever mocks the words of the chachamim, nidem betsoya roisachas, gets punished with a hot excrement. I'm not sure what the midah connected midah is, but one thing you do know is that in creating this religion, all Yeshu wanted to do was keep Torah shebektav. And that makes it easier if because there's a lot of things that are morally correct that you can accept. But whatever the Chachamim added to it, that for sure he was mocking that, and that's how he was able to attract so many people to his religion, and therefore he's nidan, he was maligad the Chachamim, and he was punished with Soyer Resachas. Tanach Chazi. So the Gemara says, look and see. Ma bein Poishi Yisrael and Aviyah Umasa Olam. Yeshu, Jesus, was originally a Jewish person. He just turned the other way and created his own religion. And he says it's best to be a Jew, to advise Unkelos, the Goy, to become Jewish. But to the prophets, Bilam, and of course, and Titus, they were trying to convince Unkelos not to become Jewish. Now the Gemara goes back to Bar Kamsa, and the question the Gemara is dealing with, which I started, is how is Bar Kamsa so successful? Elmer Abelazar says, how and see how powerful it is for somebody to be humiliated. When somebody is humiliated, he automatically has a superpower to him. As Bar Kamsa, Bar Kamsa got so successful, the Hechrev Espesei, he caused the destruction of the base of Migdash, and burned. It got the sanctuary burned. He was a regular guy. How was he able to make such a revolution over here? It must be because he was humiliated. He was infused with a superpower, and that anything he did was successful. The Gemara says, the Gemara said before, because of a rooster and a hen, the area in Israel called Turamalka was destroyed. Why? What does it mean? It's a massive area in the Ephraim section of Israel. When it was a Jewish wedding in that area, they would, let's say, going down the chuppah, they would have a rooster and a hen walk down the chuppah. It was like a siman type. I don't know. Imagine a rooster and a hen walking down your chuppah aisle, but that was the siman before kids got married. Koloimar, this was a siman, pru uvu kadalagoyim. They should be fruitful like chickens. Yom echad, so one day, I don't know, Yom echad, one day, that was the minute. Have a kocholef gudende duramoy. There was a Roman legion that passed by. Shaklinim inai, they needed food, so they took the chicken, they took the rooster and the hen. Nafal alayim machnui. Because of this was a minig, right? So the groups of Jews fell on this Roman legion, and they attacked them because they were stealing the rooster and the hen. Asur Amr Leila Kesa. So these Roman soldiers went to the Caesars and they told him, Bardabach Yehudai, the Jews are rebelling against you. So the Roman Caesar, the Roman emperor, came upon the Jewish people that living in Tur Malka. Wow, there was this Superman, we'll call him the man from the south, that belonged to the Jewish people, that was able to jump a mile and kill people. He was a superpower in one person. So the Roman emperor took his crown and put it on the ground. And he says, God, I don't want to be humiliated and have my whole army destroyed because of one person. Alma, you see the power of humiliation. Rebbeinu Alma, master of the world. Please, I'm praying to you. Don't let this happen. Don't let this person, referring to himself, lose his whole kingdom because of this one person. So this Superman called the Bar Droima that was on the side of the Jewish people, actually, the Gemara tells us that he said something that was not so accepted by God. And he said, he quoted a pasuk and said, God, you forsake us, and you're not coming out in our legions to help us. So because he said that pasuk, like as if God forgets about the Jewish people when they're in times of trouble, this caused the downfall of this Bar Duraimi, the Superman. So the Gemara interjects, isn't this a pasuk in David HaMelech's Tehillim? And so the Gemara says, David itma'ui kumatame. David was just saying it in a question, have you forsaken us? But the Bar Duraimi was saying that actually God forsaked us. All the basic keys say this Superman went to the bathroom. Also, Darkaine, and a viper came. Shamte lakakashte v'nachnavshe. He sucked out his insides, and he died. So now the Jews are without their superpower, this Bar Duraime, this Superman. So the king, the Caesar said, the emperor said, Hoil, this Rachash Li Nisa, nace happened, a miracle happened that this Bar Duraime died. This time I'm going to let the Jews go, and he picked himself up and did not attack Har HaMelech, this area of Har HaMelech. And he went. Is Dakur, the Jews leaped for joy. V'achlu, they started eating. V'shafsum, they started drinking. V'idluku sharga, and they started lighting a light of lights. Until they were able to see, it was so lit up that you were able to see the signet on a ring a mile away. There was so much lights and festivities going on the Jewish people. The Gemara thinks that's the wrong thing to do. So this angered the Caesar. The Jews are making fun of me. So he came again against the Jewish people. Rabasi said, there were 300,000 unsheathed swords, soldiers that came to this area called mountains of the king. They killed people for 3 days and 3 nights. And the other side of the mountain, people were still having parties and dancing. And they didn't know that already that the Romans were killing on the other side of the mountain all the Jewish people. This area called Har HaMelech had 600,000 little cities. I don't know what that means. 600 little thousand cities in this area of Har HaMelech. V'Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Abasi Shishim Riboy Ayorais Hoy Lamar Ba'Melech V'Chol Achas V'Achas Hoy B'Kiyotzim Mitzrayim. This each one of them, its inhabitants had 600,000 Jews. So there's 600,000 cities. Each city has 600,000 Jews in this area of Har HaMelech. Chutz Mishalish Behem, except 3 of them. That there are 3 cities in that area of Har HaMelech that had double the amount of Jews in them. Elohim, they had 1.2 million. Kfar Bish, Kfar Shechlaim, Kfar Dechraya. The town of Bish and the town of Shechlaim, Kfar Dechraya, these cities had 1.2 million people each. Kfar Bish, what kind of name is Kfar Bish? The city of evil. These people were so stingy that there was no home for a hotel. You couldn't. You had to be. It was like a gated community, which you couldn't overnight there. Over there, one was called the city of Crest because they made a living off selling crest. And apparently, crest grew in that area. Crest is something that can increase population. It adds. It's like increases semen. And so therefore that's how they grew to such a large numbers. Kvar Duchraya, the one place was called the city of the males. They would first have a boy, and then they would have a girl, and then they would stop. They would go on birth control. So that's why they're called Kvar Duchraya. So basically, I guess some of these cities did not good things. And that's why maybe they were destroyed. That's what the Gemara is hinting at. I saw this city, and it couldn't even hold 600,000 reeds. So if you go to Har HaMelech today, there's nothing there. It's a small place. Is the Talmud lying? This Christian said to Rab Chanina, the Talmud is lying, saying this immense number of cities and immense number of people living there. Amalei, so Rabbi Chanina answered, Eretz Tzvi. Eretz Yisrael is called the land of the deer. Ksibo. Ma tzvi zeh ein ora machzek es basari. Just like a deer, its skin cannot hold its body. Once you take off the skin a deer, you can't put it back on because it shrinks. Af Eretz Yisrael, so the Jew Eretz Yisrael. Bisman sheyoshvin. As soon as Jews start moving to Israel and start inhabiting Israel, it's not going to run out of room. Ravcha, it expands. Israel somehow expands. But when there's nobody living there, Gamda, it shrinks. And that's why in Har HaMelech today, you don't see, and you can't even imagine that there were 600,000 cities living there. Says the Gemara, Nuth Peace. Rav Ben Yumi Bar Chilki, Rav Chilki Bar Tuvia, Rav Huna, Bar Chia, Av Yosef Gabe Dodi. These Rav Ben Yumi and Rav Chilki and Rav Huna were sitting next to each other. Amre, they said, did anybody hear what's going on about this Kvar Chanya that was in Egypt? It was a Jewish place in Egypt. Are the people Rishoyim or are the people Tzaddikim? They wanted to know what the people who are living in Egypt are like. Pasuk Chadminai once said, he said, I'll tell you a story, and that defines the people. There was a bride and a groom that did not go to chuppah yet, that were kidnapped by the goyim, and they were from Kvar Chanya. And they put them together in prison in order to create children. They wanted these couple to create children, so they'll have slaves. Amr Loi, so she said to her groom, I beg you, don't come near me. We never have a ksuba. We're engaged, but we don't have a ksuba. He didn't touch her till the day of his death. So they died in prison. When he died first, she said to her captors, Siftu zeh, you should eulogize this person. He was a great person. He overcame his Yetzirah, Yosef more than Yosef at Tzaddik. Yosef only came over his Yetzirah one time. He was challenged one time with the wife of Potiphar. The high, Kol Yom of Yom, every day he was challenged. He was sleeping with me. Yosef didn't sleep with Ashes Potiphar in one bed. And my groom was in one bed. Yosef wasn't with his wife. I was his wife, except I didn't have a ksuba, and I'm not allowed to be with my husband if I don't have the ksuba. And yet he held out so many years and did not sleep with me, despite we were such in close quarters. So he must have been a great, great person. And this is an example of one of the people from Kvar Chanya of Mitzrayim. One mother said a story. There were 40 Medinas came for a dinar. You could buy 40, whatever it is, in a dinar. Food was cheap. But then the price went up a little bit. And so the price got a little bit more expensive. So this food became a drop more expensive. So they saw that was a sign from heaven that they need to do tshuva. Ubatku, they investigated and they found one story. Avu Benai, there was father and a son. Shabo al Nar Marasa b'Yom Kippurim. I don't know how to get this, but a father and son were mizana on Yom Kippur with an engaged Nara, with an engaged 12-year-old. The Havil and the Bezdin, they brought them to Bezdin, Uskalum, and they gave them skila. The Chazar Shalom Kaime, and then all of a sudden the prices of the food went back to its original cheap way. The prices came down. Pasach v'idach v'amar, and the other one said, a man wanted to divorce his wife in that city, but she, in order to divorce his wife, the ksuba was a large payment. What did he wanted to do? So he wanted to get her divorced without having to pay the ksuba. He got his friends. He made a party with his friends and gave them food and got them drunk. Shikram, and brought them to sleep on one bed and next to his wife. And he put the white of an egg in between them. The Hamid Adim, and then he brought Adim, Ubala Bezdin said to Bezdin, you see, my wife committed adultery. So amongst the justices there, deciding if he has to pay the ksuba, was a student of Shammai Hazakim. Ubaba Ben Buta Shmai. His name was Baba Ben Buta. He lived in Kfar Schanya Mitzrayim. Amalahan, he said, I'm not sure if that's semen. That's what I have a tradition from Shammai Hazakim. Loivin Beitza Soila Mina'ar. If the egg of the white of an egg gets absorbed by fire, v'shich v'zera, but semen doichem in ar gets expelled from fire. It goes in the other direction. Botku, they investigated Matzuk, they found out that it wasn't semen; it was the white of an egg. It's just this whole story was concocted by the husband to get out of paying the ksuba. They brought the husband to the bezdin. They gave malchus, and they made him pay for the ksuba. So Amalei Abayla Rav Yosef, Rabbi said to Yosef, they were such great righteous people that right away they investigate the sea to make sure that the city is run well and fairly. My Tami Anish, why did Kfar Chanya get destroyed? So the Gemara answers, they didn't mourn Jerusalem. They had it very good in Egypt. It was a nice place to live. You can be rejoiced and be happy, those that are mourning Jerusalem. So because they didn't mourn Jerusalem, that's why they were punished, and that this place, Kfar Chanya Mitzrayim of Egypt, was destroyed. New Gemara. We'll continue another 5-6 minutes, then we'll stop and we'll try to make up the time tomorrow. Asaka the Rispek Char Beganana. Because of the panel of a wagon, this Ganana was destroyed. What does this mean? Beitar was destroyed. Yom Echad, there was one day, have a kol chalpei brati de Kesar, the daughter of the Kesar was, I'm sorry. Beta was destroyed. In Beta there was this minig. When a boy was born, they planted a male cedar tree. Yunukasa, and a girl was born, Shasli Tornisa, they would plant a female tree. So that was the minig in Beta. And when the boy and girl got married, they cut down the tree, and they would make the chuppah out of those trees. In other words, in Beitar, they made local shidduchim, which is very nice. But a boy was born, they planted a tree, and a girl was born, they planted a tree. Yom Echad have a kolchafa brata de Caesar. The daughter of the Caesar, the emperor, was passing through, itabar saka de rispak, and the side of a panel of her wagon broke. Katsi arzev aylila. So her attendants cut down these cedar trees and brought it to her. Asa nafal alay machnu chunhe. So the Jewish people fell upon her. You're stealing from our cedar trees. Also, Amrle Lekesa, she told her father, the Caesar, and Mordebach Yehuda, the Jews are rebelling at you. So the emperor came to attack Beitar. God cut down in anger through a Karen, through a horn, the Jewish people. How many soldiers came against Beitar? There were 80,000 legions, each one blowing a horn to gather a legion of army to attack Beitar. So it was a real all-out attack to destroy this place called Beitar. And they killed Abba, Anashim, and Anashim Taf, men, women, and children. The blood was so severe, so intense. V'nafal liyam hagadol. Blood spilled into the Mediterranean Sea. When you say the Mediterranean Sea is very close to Beitar, I'm telling you, it's far away. It's a mile away from Beitar. Tanya, we learned in the Brayser of Leza Gadol Omer. Shnei Necholim Yesh Bikas Yadayim. There are two rivers in Bikas Yadayim. Echad Moishech Elech, Echad Moishech Elech. One flows this way, one flows this way. V'shi'aru Chachamim. The Chachamim estimated Shnei Chalak Amayim ve'Echadam. There was so much blood. Two parts were made out of water and one part was blood. So you looked at these rivers flowing in the area of Beitar and they were full of blood. But Masnita Tane, Sheva Shanim Batzur Goyim Es Kameim Bedoman Shen Yisrael B'Loi Zevel. For 7 years after Beitar was destroyed, the Goyim were able to be cut their vineyards, and they didn't have to fertilize their vineyard because there was so much blood of the Jewish people flowing. We go to Amud Beis, Nzayim and Beis. Amar Rab Chia bar Oven, Amar Rab Yeshua. Another 2 more minutes, then we'll stop. Amar Rab Chia bar Oven, Amar Rab Yeshua ben Karcha. Soch li zokin echem anshu Yerushalayim. This man, a new story. An old man from the from the people of Jerusalem spoke to me, and he pointed out a certain place in Jerusalem, the Bikazi, in this valley, Harag Nuvuzardan Rav Tabachim, the general of Nuvuzardan, who was the general of the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar. He killed out Masayim Achas Esrim Ribai, 211,000 people. Yishlayim Hargu, and in Yishlayim they killed Tishim Abba Ribai 11 Achas. 94,000 people were killed on one stone. Ad Shaholach Domam, until the blood came, V'naga B'damash of Zechariah. And this is during the first base Migdash. It touched the blood of Zechariah. There was so much Jewish blood being killed during the first destruction of the first temple. The two bloods, the blood of the killed of Jewish people, were touching the blood of Zechariah. Zechariah was a prophet who tried to rebuke the Jewish people to do tshuva, and they ended up killing Zechariah, and his blood remained in the Beis Hamikdash and kept bubbling. That's why Nebuzaradan was surprised about this whole thing. So let's just finish another minute. So Nebuzaradan found the blood of Zechariah. It was just bubbling up after so many years after being killed. So he asked the Jewish people, what's going on over here? They told him, he said, they told him it's the dam of carbonas that was spilled. He brought blood of an animal, and it didn't look like the blood that was on the floor here. Amalei, he said to them, if you tell me who belongs this blood, mutav, it's good. Vilav, if you're not going to tell me, I'm going to comb your flesh with combs, with iron combs. Amalei, so they told him, my name is what can we tell you? We had a prophet that was rebuking us and trying to get us to do tshuva. So we killed the messenger. And the Hall Kamashinin, many years ago this happened, the Kol Noyach Dameh, his blood has not come down since. Amalahu, so Nebuzaradan, the general of Nebuchadnezzar, he said, Anom Afaisalei, I will get this blood to calm down. I see Sanhedrin Kedoilev of Sanhedrin Katana, Kotel Ilovai Veloinoch. He brought the Sanhedrin, the great court, and the people from the lower courts, and he killed them in front of the blood. Veloinoch, the blood did not rest. Bachurim Besulas, he took young boys and girls, caught their line, killed it by the blood. V'loinach, I see Tinuki, so he took infants, Shalbeis Rabbim, kids from that were in yeshiva. Sorry, Katel Iliva, he killed it in front of the blood. V'loinach, it didn't stop bubbling up. So Amalei, so he said, Zechariah, Toivim Shebem Ibatem, Nichelich Tibad Kulai. I killed out so many Jews, right? Do you want me to kill out everybody until you calm down? As soon as he said that, the blood stopped bubbling. So one more point. When Nebuzaradan saw this amazing event, he saw that he killed so many people. He spoke to the blood of Zechariah, and then only after he spoke to the blood of Zechariah, it stopped bubbling. Here is Shuva B'date. He decided he had a tshuva. He thought to himself, Ma'im al nefesh achas, for killing one Zechariah, God took revenge by killing all those people, causing me to kill all those people, innocent people, to get this blood to come down. So kach hahu gavad the kata kohani shmasi. So he thought about himself. If I killed all these people, God's going to revenge from me so much more. Alachas kama v'kama. Orak, he ran away. Azal shadid shtar pruta bebeisei. He sent a letter discussing, arranging his affairs in his house. Ve'igayer, and he became a ger. So Tana, we learned in a brisa. Naaman ger toishav hayo. Naaman, it's interesting. The Gemara is going to end off right over here. Naaman was a ger toishav, and he didn't become a ger, but he became like accepting on himself the 7 mitzvahs of Bnei Noach. Nuvuzardan ger tzedek haya. This is the Nuvuzardan we just discussed. The general. He's like he's like Reich, like head of the SS or something like that. He became a ger tzedek. From the sons of Haman and Rasha, Lamdu Torah b'Bnei Brak. They started teaching him Torah b'Bnei Brak. So imagine a German officer, and he has his grandson becoming from. The Bnei Banav Shel Sisera Limdi Tunaikas Bishlayim. From the grandchildren of Sisera, you have people who are rebbeim in yeshivas. The Bnei Banav Shel Sancheiriv Limdu Torah b'Rambam. And from the grandchildren of Sancheiriv, they were publicly teaching Torah. They became great people. Maninu Shmai B'Avtalya. That is the Shmai B'Avtalya. Hainin Diksiv Nesatas Domal Tzechil Selaviti Kasais. And that's it. That God put blood on a rock, and it did not want to stop, be covered. So that's the referring to the blood of Zechariah. So we'll continue over here, B'ezras Hashem, tomorrow.
Fascinating.
Okay. Thank you.